We're with attorney Michael Cooke, who's running for the Democratic nomination for Congress from the 3rd Congressional District. You're kind of new to our audience, so tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, your family, anything you'd like us to know about yourself.
Well, I want to correct one important part. At this point, I have an exploratory committee considering a run for Congress.
Okay.
It's important in that, once you start actually going around and saying that you're running, once you've made that decision, then there's certain requirements that come with the Federal Election Commission. So at this point, we're still considering, and an important part of that is most recently, I did meet with the Ocean County Democratic Committee, their screening board, and we did have a nice conversation. They asked me a lot of questions, and we're waiting to see if they might actually endorse a possible candidacy on my part, which will be an important part of my decision-making process. But at this point now, I'm going around to the district, to the various towns, meeting with the different Democratic leaders to see, to build trust and learn about what their interests are, what their concerns are, and also to really speak to not normal, but be with regular people. And find out what their concerns and their interests are, and again, to build that trust and to build that understanding. And it's been a great process so far. I'm really enjoying it. I've met some really fantastic people, and if nothing else, just the people I've met and the richness of all that is really worth everything I've done so far.
Okay, you mentioned Ocean County. What about Burlington County? Have you been through some of the towns in Burlington?
Oh yeah, I've been through through Burlington County and Ocean County. But when I met the part about Ocean County is when I met with the Ocean County Democrats. I think at the next meeting in Burlington County, there's going to be some discussion about the 3rd district seat.
Okay, you're an attorney. Your office is in Toms River. Tell us about your career and what brought you here.
Well, actually, my office right now is in Perth Amboy. I'm moving it to Toms River. But my experience as an attorney, I went to New York Law School. I graduated in 2007. This was my second career. I worked in the publishing industry for many years. I also was a realtor while I was in law school to help pay the bills. I started out as a litigator at an insurance defense firm. Got a lot of litigation experience there. After a few years there, I decided to open my own practice in New Jersey, which I did. And I really enjoyed working with clients, with people. And so I do a lot more municipal court, because they're shorter duration cases generally. A lot more contact with the client, a lot more contact with people, and it's you can really help people a lot in municipal court and have a much more direct impact on their lives, and they're usually more directly affected by what's going on when they're involved in a municipal court matter, whether it's traffic, misdemeanor offenses, which in New Jersey we actually call them disorderly persons offenses. But they seem like small cases, but they can have an awful lot of an impact on people's lives, and that's why I chose to do that.
If you decide to run and if you're elected to Congress, what is your platform going to be? What are your priorities going to be as a freshman congressman?
Well, we're gathering, as I said, a lot of information, a lot of knowledge from meeting with people. There's some consultants that we've retained and are bringing in, and some new ones that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks, who are going to help us put together the platform. It'll be a combination of things we've learned and some experts and some consultants who really inform me and educate me on how to deal with those various things. One of the first people we brought in is a woman named Linda Hinkle. She's going to help us with military and government affairs. We also recently announced Randy Thompson, who's part of an organization called Help Not Handcuffs, seeking to have to go move away from some of the criminal law aspects of dealing with drug use and misuse. He's quite an extraordinary individual, been a lot of help to me. That's one of the issues that I think we really have to look at, especially in Toms River, but I'm sure that there's some problem with that everywhere. But Toms River is having a big problem with that. Ocean County is having a big problem with drugs. So that's going to be something I'm going to expend a fair amount of time on. Foreign policy is not something that's necessarily come up in my travels at this point, but I do have a distinct interest in foreign policy. And when we get to the point potentially of announcing, there'll be people, advisors that will bring in that I can discuss that with. I do have my own. I have some opinions, but it's something that you do want to sit down with a lot of people and talk about it before you start putting out white papers and policy position papers. We're not at that point yet, I guess is the answer.
Have you had any conversations with the DCCC?
Not as of yet. There'll be a time for that. We're just not up to that point yet. Okay. Certainly, I wouldn't want to go to them before we see where we are with the local Democrats. That just wouldn't be the right way to go around.
Okay. If you do decide to run, you'd be running against somebody who self-funded his own campaign 2 years ago. So it would be a pretty formidable quest just to raise enough money to match what Mr. MacArthur has.
Yeah, people bring that up a lot, and that's true. He did have a lot of money. He didn't really spend very much of it. The person who's who's advising my committee at this point, and would probably run any campaign we have. We've discussed that as an impediment towards running, or a challenge of running. It's certainly something you have to talk about. I would not say that I'm. It's a concern. It's something we will have to address. But we will, if we go forward, we will have a plan to win the election. And I'm not going to go and get ahead of myself and say, well, we need X amount of dollars, otherwise we're just in trouble. I know people like to use those numbers to measure a campaign, but if we have a campaign going forward, we're going to come up with a plan. It's going to be a victory plan, and we will have the resources we need to execute that plan successfully. I think there were a lot of reasons why the Democrats weren't successful last time. Money was one of them. We did run a great campaign last time. You have to adjust from time to time, and then within the campaign, we saw what did work and didn't work last time. We'll learn from that, and we'll again put forward again, last time was the first time he ran at that level also. Remember, the honorable congressman from Randolph, as I like to call Mr. MacArthur, was a school board member, did an important job, but a little bit of a leap up to Congress. So this is a person who had never run at a national level before. He did apparently a successful job, obviously. But it's to use a baseball analogy, it's like the first time through the league. Nobody knew what to make of him either. So we have a book on him now. We'll make a plan to win if we decide to go forward with the campaign.
Okay. If you do decide to go forward and you upset Mr. MacArthur, you would be a freshman in what is probably going to be still a Republican-controlled Congress. Do you have any thoughts on how you might get your agenda to the forefront?
Well, I tell you what, I really enjoy talking to really smart people who I disagree with, because to me, that's how you, first of all, understand people who disagree with you, change minds, learn new things. Nobody's got a corner on knowledge or policy. So I have a lot of experience speaking with people and dealing with people who I don't necessarily agree with their worldview. That's all you can do, is you go there and you meet the people and you talk to the people and you try to make as many friends, as many connections, as many relationships as possible. People are fond of term limits these days, and there's a certain there's certainly an appeal to term limits, but if you're going to make, and I guess the people would probably rather we didn't make billion and trillion dollar deals, but if you're going to make billion-dollar deals with people and deal with that amount of money, the amount of money that the federal government deals with, you really want to know something about that person. I think it would almost be negligent to not know those people very well and have a good working relationship with them. So it's all a matter of having a good working relationship with people. That's something I have always done. I day in, day out, week in, week out, I'm in municipal courts, and a lot of times I don't know the prosecutor that I'm dealing with. I know my client for a very brief period of time. I hope to know the judge pretty well, but I don't always. You have to make a quick read of people. And I think it's good that I have that ability to make a quick read on people, but also, it teaches you how to develop relationships with people and understand their motivations. I want to say that it was Tip O'Neill who said that you don't ever question your adversary's motives. It's a tough thing to do these days, not question your adversary's motives. But that's the approach I like to take. I'm not questioning your motives. I'm questioning your motivation. I'm questioning how you intend to get there and what your plan is. So that's how I approach it. And I think if I approach it that way, hopefully I can develop the relationship so we can get some things done.
Okay. Final question: as we approach Super Tuesday, do you have any preference in the Democratic presidential race? What's your assessment of each candidate?
I would prefer that. We run a good campaign against Donald Trump, who unfortunately I think is going to be their candidate. I know a lot of people think, fantastic, we get to run against him, but I think it says something really awful about the other side in this. We need two vibrant parties in this country, and the fact that this is the guy with all that heated rhetoric is just, it's pretty horrendous. It's pretty awful that this is the guy that it seems like at least the plurality of that party it wants to put forward. And you can believe that he believes what he's saying or not, but it doesn't matter. I think the rhetoric and the danger of the rhetoric is really is the real problem. He's saying things and then people are going out there. You can't necessarily blame somebody else for your actions, but it doesn't help when you've got this guy with his megaphone saying the things that he is. But yeah, my preference is we put up the person who's best suited to beat that guy, because that's something that we need to not have in our public life.
And are you leaning one way or another to that best person?
I'm thinking about it, and I will make a decision when I go into the booth. On a private level, I would discuss this personally, my personal preferences, with anybody who wanted to talk to me about it. I'm not going to come down and say, you think you should do this, I think you should do that. I think it's more valuable, and I think it's something I can do and add value to somebody's decision making, to say, I feel this way about, these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses. If you like this, then you like this person. If you like that, then you like that person. I think that's always valuable, and I will talk politics with whomever wants to. But at this time, I'm not going to even put on the record that I have a preference, just what it might be.
Okay.
And I would love to think that anything I said about either of them would help them, but probably not at this point.
Okay, Mr. Cooke, thank you very much.
You're welcome.